Safety management is not counting injuries. It should be about driving action to prevent them. We have our goals, we're good at the basics, we focus on the right things for the right reasons, but it just wasn't enough. An employee in Oregon, he fell basically straight back from an 8-foot ladder. And it was one perfect storm. He shouldn't have been using that ladder, he shouldn't have been where he was. There were 4 other guys around him and they let him do it. And that was one of those instances where we said somebody should have been able to stop and say, whoa. And that is one thing that's come out of all this. I have the right to go to any facility, and we have facilities all over the world, and I can stop something if it's unsafe. Now, I personally haven't done it, but I have been with a mill manager who walked up personally and said, hey, get down off that, that's not the way we do that, you need to stop that action. And we all have that. And in my opinion, every company should enable their employees to do that. If they don't, you're setting yourself up for a problem. You know, sometimes my facilities, they're concerned, well, we don't want a recordable or we don't want an injury. We're really trying hard to push past that and say, we've got to do what's right for our injured workers. Management is doing the things right, but leadership is doing the right things. And that's very important for us. And we take that all the way down to the general helper on the floor, to the janitor. I mean, they have the rights, again, to stop or change something if they want to. The mill has what we call a mill call, and if we have an injury once a month, all the mills will get on the phone and they'll discuss that injury and they share pictures, and this is all around the world. And it's been so impactful, and I always sit in on all those calls because I learned so much. And you see how somebody was doing something. You know, you always read this stuff and you're like, why were they where they are? Why were they doing that? But when you see it and you can see that maybe somebody should have stepped in and said, hey, there's another way to do that. It's a great learning tool for us, and we do it every month religiously. I bet we bought thousands of gallons of yellow paint and clearly marked all of our pedestrian crossings, where they should be, where they shouldn't be, and it's been a huge, huge success for us. A lot of this stuff is just coming out and letting your employees know that you care about where they are and what they're doing. I could see when I go out on these how the employees are so engaged because they're like, wow, you're here and you really care if I'm run over on the dock. It's an amazing thing. So now I'm going to switch gears on you, and I'm going to talk about our employee focus. You have an employee injured, they've worked for you 30 years, you need to make sure you take care of that employee and you try to get them back to work. We talk about before an accident happens, what you're doing with an employee. And one of the things I personally do in Memphis, when we have new employees that are brought in, I'm brought into new employee orientation, and I get about 5 or 10 minutes just to talk about what workers' comp is. I mean, I don't want to scare them and say, we're going to hurt you here and you're going to need a doctor, but we just talk about, you know, if something happens, you need to tell your manager, and here's, you know, especially like here in Tennessee, we kind of go over, you know, the panel issue and all those kind of things, just to kind of lay it out there. We tell them, you need to take ownership in your recovery. This is your injury. We're sorry you're injured. We're going to take care of you, but you need to step up and help us get you back to work. We want them to talk to their claims person and our employee advocate. I'm going to explain what that is, because it's very important, I think, and I don't know how you feel in your world, for these employees to feel like they're engaged in their process, that they're not just out there. We want them talking to their supervisor. This is something I go out and drill in my supervisors' heads all the time. Just because they're not there, now I know it's a challenge because you still got to do the work and you got to staff the position, I get all that, but you need to reach out and talk to the injured worker and just ask them how they're doing. Either your supervisor, your EHS person, your HR person. I'll tell you personally, and I've got a lot of claims, but I call on all my catastrophic claims. I either try to talk to my injured worker or I try to talk to the spouse or somebody in the family just to see how things are going. One thing we also do is a survey. And I'll tell you, one of my facilities, when they found out that we were doing this, they weren't too happy about it because they were concerned. I said, well, you shouldn't be concerned with the answers if you're giving good outcomes to our injured worker. We developed an employee advocate position. And what this is, I tried to get IP to let me hire somebody internally, but they were skeptical of whether it would fly. So, okay, we contract with our vendor. Sedgwick does it for us. It's a nurse. And what this person does, she's our first point of contact to the injured worker. And she's really there to talk about the claim, yes, but more about what's going on with that injured worker. And I tell you, it has been so successful a program, and I think the reason our employees love it so much is one of the first things she tells them is she does not communicate with my facility. She does not talk to the management. She doesn't talk to their supervisor. She is strictly there for them. And then we've given her access to, she can refer somebody to our EAP program. We have a behavioral specialist that will open a case and help them, either them or the spouse. It's been monumental on my catastrophic claims. She's been a huge success talking to the spouses and some of my really severely injured workers. You're going to have that 5%, as I like to call it. You're going to have the 5% that are a struggle to get back to work. They don't want to be there. They're litigated. You're going to have that. But what we decided at IP is, okay, yeah, you're going to have that, but why not focus on the other 95% that you've got that are really good workers and they're just hurt and they're scared and they want to get back to work. I had a coworker went by and he mowed one of his coworkers' yards because the guy had a back claim. I mean, he was legitimately hurt. He fell and got hurt. And his coworker went and mowed his yard. And I thought, that is just so cool that somebody would do that for somebody. And, you know, like I said, they got back to the facility and everybody thought, wow, this is great. These people really care for each other.